Now, Politico recently released an excerpt from Donna Brazile's new book, which basically confirms that Hillary Clinton had, without a doubt, rigged the 26th primary against Bernie Sanders and in her favor, working together with, of course, other people inside the DNC, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who had to resign in absolute disgrace. So when this was revealed, the internet was lit on fire. Millions of Bernie Sanders supporters felt like, yes, finally, vindication. This is stuff that we already knew. This is stuff that we've said all along, that it just wasn't a fair contest, that Bernie Sanders didn't actually get a fair shot. Now, it wasn't just Bernie Sanders that didn't get a fair shot, by the way. Nobody had a fair shot. So everybody else that ran against her, that included, Martin O'Malley, Jim Webb, Lincoln Chafee. If you were a fan of Lincoln Chafee, if you were feeling the chafe, then, well, you also got screwed out of your shot. So, because it was so incredibly unfair. So, this is, she controlled the party. She controlled the money. Now, of course, a lot of that is like, oh, well, she basically gave all this money to the DNC, took it out of President Obama's bankruptcy, which is actually very, very interesting because President Obama was taking a very, very long time to pay off the debts. Hillary Clinton stepped in. Her campaign is like, okay, we're going to loan you the money so you can actually be able to function, but we get full control of the party's finances. So that's what happened. Of course, she had control over the staff, over the expenditures, and then set up her own sort of legal fundraising scheme that took money from state parties. Now, this was much needed money that would have helped out people who were also on the ballot, these down ballot Democrats. It actually took money from the state parties and funneled it right into her campaign. Okay. Not only that, but this agreement was signed about a year before Clinton actually became the nominee. Now, it's standard practice that once you become the nominee, then you can get full control. But this happened way, way before then. So that's what made it especially shady. Basically, through this deal, the DNC was saying, Hillary Clinton is our nominee. All this, this entire nominating process is just a formality. We have already coronated Queen Hillary, and she is our nominee. Even though, oh, look, we've got this guy, Bernie Sanders is running. We've got other people who are running for this nomination. Anyway, we don't care about that. Hillary Clinton's got all the superdelegates. Hillary Clinton's got all the advantages because that's who we want. This was preordained. Okay. So now with that established, and that is fact, this is coming from Donna Brazile, the insider of insiders, who ran the DNC as interim chair. And not only that, but she was a big Hillary Clinton supporter. When she was a contributor at CNN, she passed off debate questions to the Clinton campaign. There was no doubt that she had a bias towards Hillary Clinton. And even yet, she looked at this corruption and was like, okay, that's too much for me. This was a rigged contest. So, with all that, like I said, established, Elizabeth Warren decided to weigh in on the matter. And she was talking to Jake Tapper about it. And what Tapper's going to do, he's going to give some context. And then he's going to ask Warren some questions about this and how she feels about these new revelations. Let's take a look.
We learned today from former Democratic National Committee Chairwoman Donna Brazile that the Clinton campaign, in her view, did rig the presidential nominating process by entering into an agreement to control day-to-day operations at the DNC. The Clinton campaign controlling the party's staffing, strategy, finances, communications, and that agreement was entered into in August 2015, a year before she defeated Senator Bernie Sanders. This must shock you.
Look, this is a real problem. But what we've got to do as Democrats now is we've got to hold this party accountable. When Tom Perez was first elected chair of the DNC, the very first conversation I had with him is to say, you have got to put together a Democratic Party in which everybody can have confidence that the party is working for Democrats rather than Democrats are working for the party. And he's being tested now. This is a test for Tom Perez. And either he's going to succeed by bringing Bernie Sanders and Bernie Sanders representatives into this process, and they're going to say it's fair, it works, we all believe it, or he's going to fail. And I very much hope he succeeds. I hope for Democrats everywhere. I hope for Bernie and for all of Bernie's supporters that he's going to succeed.
Very quickly, Senator, do you agree with the notion that it was rigged?
Yes.
Okay, well, that's pretty simple. Do you agree that it's rigged? Absolutely. Now, before I get into more of that, I do want to talk about Tom Perez, right? Tom Perez, she says, well, it's a test. Tom Perez has already failed the test. What he's done since taking over as DNC chair is he's done a failed tour with Bernie Sanders. And it wasn't Bernie Sanders the one that failed. It was Tom Perez. Every time Bernie Sanders would go on, the crowd would cheer enthusiastically for him. Tom Perez gets on stage, he gets booed. People were not in favor of Tom Perez. He was basically President Obama's pick to make sure that the DNC stays in the hands of the establishment. So, you know, Perez, he's already, if there's a test, he's already failed it. I mean, under his leadership, he has filled the DNC with Hillary Clinton supporters, people who are supporters of the establishment, put them in charge of the money. Now, that's very, very important because nobody has access, except for Tom Perez and maybe one other person, to the DNC's finances. Gee, I wonder why. Maybe they'll find out, as we did yesterday, thanks to Donna Brazile coming out and saying, when we looked at the finances, we realized that we're spending so much money on the consultants, the Democratic consultants that get paid whether or not the Democrats win or lose elections. So they get paid and they're overpaid. So now in the new DNC under Tom Perez, he made sure that nobody else gets access. Why? Because they're still paying those consultants. They're going to get paid one way or the other. So as I said before, Tom Perez, if this is a test, he has absolutely failed. He has not changed the DNC, and under his leadership, the DNC is imploding. Not so good. Okay. Now, as far as, yes, Elizabeth Warren's like, yeah, absolutely, she did. Hillary Clinton did rig the primary process in her favor with help, as I said, from the DNC. Bernie Sanders was promised a fair race. He did not get that fair race, and therefore he didn't lose fair and square. Neither did Martin O'Malley, neither did Lincoln Chafee. They all got screwed. Now, they also say, though, and interestingly enough, I've seen this argument. I kind of dipped my toe last night in the fever swamps of Bernie Sanders hate on Twitter. Never fun. I don't recommend actually doing that because you will get frustrated and you'll pull out your hair. Luckily for me, I don't really have any. So the arguments, of course, are like, he wouldn't have won anyway. I mean, not only that, but, oh, thank goodness for Hillary Clinton saving the DNC from bankruptcy. She bought it. She didn't save it because she wanted to save the DNC because she believed in it. No, she gave all that money so she could take control and ensure her coronation. It's insane, but they would love to rationalize all of this stuff, and that's exactly what they're trying to do, and they're working overtime to do that. So thank goodness for Donna Brazile actually coming out and proving that this contest was completely unfair, something that we had already suspected for a very, very long time and had a lot of evidence of. Now, I don't understand her motivation, but at this point, I don't think that's all that important. And interestingly enough, now she's being attacked by Hillary Clinton supporters, which is ironic at best, because she is a Hillary Clinton supporter, a diehard Hillary Clinton supporter. And now she's like getting attacked by people for actually coming out for the truth. And I've also seen attacks against Elizabeth Warren, some rather vile attacks, to be honest with you. I've seen memes of her, of supposed liberals, Democrats, saying that, calling her Pocahontas. Now, that's the smear Donald Trump came up with to go after Elizabeth Warren. And now we're having Democrats use that smear against Elizabeth Warren. That's insane. All for coming out and saying what is absolutely proven to be true. Now, I know that there are some of you out here on the left, some viewers of mine, that are like, but what took you so long to actually come out and admit this, Elizabeth Warren? We have been saying this forever. And if you're asking that, I understand. I get it. That's a good question. I think that she's just really bad at politics. I mean, maybe ulterior motives. Maybe I want to get elected or reelected and I didn't want to go against Hillary Clinton. Either way, she's really bad at politics, but she's actually really good on policy. And I think that's what us progressives wants. That's what we want. We want good policy. Okay. So I want to give her credit for being honest. I want to give her credit for calling it out. And I want to give Donna Brazile credit for also calling it out. They deserve some of that credit for bucking the Clinton machine, which is not easy. It still holds a lot of power in Democratic circles. However, there is, I think, an angle that a lot of people haven't been talking about. These defections, if you want to call it that, I should say, I think they do signal that maybe there is now a weakening of the hold that the Clintons have on the Democratic Party. And if that's true, then that's a really good sign for those of us who are focused on taking it back, taking the DNC and taking the Democratic Party back away from the Clintons and putting it back into the hands of the people. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent progressive media, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/TYTNation.